Duck Fart TV.
Well, hello everybody, it's JD Duck here, Duck Fart TV. Hey, just wanted to say really quick, for some reason my audio, the software that I use to record the audio completely crashed when I hit stop after recording about almost 2 hours worth of audio alongside of my video for this episode, and so now I'm actually kind of retroactively watching the footage and trying to commentary over it. So just bear with me a little bit, but I didn't want to, leave you guys with nothing and just say, hey, this is, the episode. So the good news is I can skip a lot of stuff and we can, get to the highlights essentially. So what I'm going over right here was just letting you guys know that I actually I did some practice and got into my game that I'm playing on the side, and in the vanilla game, there's no formation, there's no diamond formation for aircraft and tactical. So what I've done instead is I just break them into smaller groups. So basically, also something that I've learned that you'll see me do here later is you can set your aircraft up on patrol paths. So you don't actually have to, they don't actually have to be sent out manually every time. I can actually set them up on these patrol paths. So you'll see when I do that here in a second. The other thing you'll see is I'm going to stay away from Rabaul. That was one of the other comments. So we'll definitely stay away from there. You can see there's all those airfields, all those gray circles, both ours and theirs are essentially airfields. And the larger the circle, the larger the level airfield. So yeah, we're gonna move our carrier out of the area for sure. I don't know what I was thinking. That was a noob move to be trying to send it up in there. So we're definitely not gonna do that. What I do is I just kind of send it over back towards Guadalcanal and keep it over there for a while as just kind of a mobile airfield, and I think that's pretty much all we do here, and then I set the aircraft up for patrols. So we'll get to that part. Yeah, so right here is where I'd show you how to set up the patrols. So you can basically just set multiple paths, multiple points, and then you click the little circular button underneath the aircraft there, and it makes that a patrol. And the patrol's relative to your task force. So even if your task force moves, your Kingfisher will still take off in that general direction and patrol that area around your task force. So what I do here is I set up a whole bunch of them to kind of cover the whole gambit of space around us. And then I also set up a few for our land-based fields, which you'll see here in just a second. I'll get to that. All right, so here I'm just setting up the strike aircraft that we have out and about and trying to have them find the task force that we were pretty close to in the previous episode to see if they can do a strike. And unfortunately, we don't end up finding it, so I'll just go ahead and skip past this part until we get to something interesting for you guys. Okay, so what happens here is our task force gets engaged by some zeros, and it goes about how you would expect. Despite the fact that one of the aircraft, when it's crashing, gets pretty close to one of our ships, it all goes totally okay. We take out 4 aircraft, and it's all good. All right, and then right here is where I was doing what I was telling you guys about. I'm setting up the land-based patrols. I accidentally selected Avengers here. I actually was wanting to have them be Wildcats, but yeah, so I set up a couple land-based patrols here so that we could just make sure nothing was sneaking up on us, hopefully, to get anybody dropping off more stuff at Milne Bay or anything along those lines. Yeah, and then really almost nothing, basically nothing happens for day and a half, almost 2 days, where we don't find any ships, we don't find anything. It's just kind of us trying to make some tactical decisions about setting up additional task force. At some point, we do get another 64 command points, and we use those to build a little task force that is built for combat specifically. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's 2 heavy cruisers, 1 light cruiser, and 2 destroyers. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, it goes, I think, about 2 whole days where we just don't see anything. And then we get an encounter with Task Force 1. And I have no idea what it is, but I suspect that it's a submarine. So I was trying an experiment, so I put some Dauntless up in the air with bombs to see if I could bomb the submarine from the surface. It doesn't work, just so you guys know, but we try it anyways, and we end up wasting the bombs, but it's okay, because they're right above the carrier. They can land immediately afterwards. But yeah, we have a nice little engagement with enemy submarines, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, we're trying to spot a periscope, and we get the message that there's torpedoes in the water, so I immediately paused it so that we could get a better view on our fleet and make a decision on what's going on here. I don't feel like it's cheap to pause it during the situations, considering I'm just one person, and all of these ships would have individual crews and captains with tons of people making decisions on the fly as soon as they heard these messages about torpedoes in the water. So me making a pause and making some individual decisions and then unpausing, to me, adds to the realism, doesn't take away from it. So you guys can let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm totally okay with that. And you guys, I'm making this content for y'all for the most part. I enjoy making it regardless of whatever rules we set up on that type of front. So I will take your guys' opinion. Whatever you guys say or whatever the consensus is in the comments, I'll go with. You know, I'll save you guys a little bit of time. We do end up avoiding them. And then we start our search with our destroyers to get their active sonar and slow their speeds down and start searching in the area where the torpedoes came from. Yeah, it takes us a while to find the submarine, but once we do, we get our destroyers headed towards it. We had some difficulty with... The sea state was only 3, so it shouldn't have been as difficult as it was, in my opinion, but we had to slow down to 8 knots in order to maintain contact with the submarine with our active sonar. So what I ended up having to do was I had to use 1 destroyer going, just basically matching its speed, and then I had to use another one to do the depth charge passes, and I was a bit indecisive on which one was going to be which, and so wasted a little bit of time here. But eventually we got on a pretty good path and dropped some depth charges on this thing. Oh, of course, though, we had to try the Dauntless bombs from the surface first, so we had to see how that was going to go. I was a little bit concerned that the Benson was going to get hit by friendly bombs here, so I did put them at an all-stop for the moment. But yeah, I tried to check the submarine and see if the bombs would hit, and they just splashed against the surface. So I'm sure it would have been very loud and would have made the submarine a little bit nervous, but probably not more nervous than that pinging sound that they're getting constantly. Our first pass with the depth charges was not a very good angle, and I also was going a bit fast. I didn't manage this part very well. I was misclicking a lot and making some mistakes, but the depth charges ended up being a little bit better than I expected, so we did end up damaging it on our first run. Then we set up our ships to get a second run. Second run, we had a much better angle. Still was going a little bit fast. I made that mistake again, but the depth charges were pretty solid. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to sink her. and it looked like she was trying to surface, and in fact, she did surface. We did make very short work of her once she did surface, though. Just like that, we sunk a submarine. Right after that, we were pretty easily able to drop our troops and supplies that we were going to reinforce Milne Bay with. And then we actually made the decision to go up to Port Moresby and grab some troops and supplies from there and bring them back to further reinforce Milne Bay. Rather than making the trip all the way back to our headquarters, we thought, hey, let's just make this short trip here really quick and grab some troops. So I thought that was a good decision. You guys will have to let me know again if you think that's a good decision or not. Yeah, and so right here is where we started building our third task force. And like I said, it was made up of, and as I'm recording this, guys, I'm watching this through my video editing software, so I can't actually see the names of the ships. But if I remember correctly, it ended up being 2 heavy cruisers, a light cruiser, and 2 destroyers, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. But you guys can see on the screen here what we're making it up out of. And the intention of this task force was to be just purely combat focused, to where they can either protect or support the other task forces if they need to. So yeah, after sending that task force out into just kind of a general patrol area, I decided that I was going to move my carrier force yet again. I was going to move them to a nice little place where I felt like they would be centered, to where they could strike and support with their strike aircraft in multiple locations. So I thought that, you know, somewhere kind of central there wouldn't be such a bad spot. And we hadn't, that fleet has not been located by the enemy at this point, so it seemed fairly safe to me with all of the strike aircraft that we have that would be in range of that area as well. And again, nothing really happened. We didn't really spot anything for quite some time. I was able to get our convoy in to pick up some more troops and supply to take over to Milne Bay from Port Moresby. And the problem was you can't partially fill these ships. So I didn't want to take all of the supply from Port Moresby. So I was only able to take, I think, 500 troops and 400 supply over there, which is less than ideal. I would have liked to take more supply, but I felt like troops were more important at the moment. So yeah, that's basically what we were doing there. And then getting some more aircraft up in the air. I was basically making sure that we had our close air support, close air protection on our fleet there that was available. Yeah, and then we actually finally have something happen where we spot an enemy fleet, and it was a pretty standard fleet. What the map says isn't accurate. It ended up being 2 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 2 destroyers in that fleet. And so the recon said it was 7 ships. I had 5 ships that were kind of moving up that way that were combat ready. And I thought, hey, let's get some Avengers and Dauntless in the area at the same time and strike them at the same time. Try and knock out 2 of their heavy ships, and then that would make that fight with my task force that was on the way much more achievable. The aircraft were in perfect position already, so I didn't take the time to adjust their path or anything along those lines, or take the tip that I love the tip that Frank gave of sending torpedo bombers on both sides of a fleet. That sounds awesome, just creating like this, you know, sandwich of torpedoes coming at them, which would be awesome. But I don't do that on this one just because the way we started was in basically perfect position for me to coordinate these aircraft between the Dauntless and the Avengers. So I didn't want to waste that by trying to mess with the position. I just decided to take it right away. We targeted the 2 heavy cruisers, of course. The Avengers had to weave their way down, circle their way down to their attack path. The other thing that I learned, and I'll show off here in just a second in this episode, was that you can hit the F9 key while you're in the tactical map, and that speeds up time. It does time compression. You can't do it while anybody's firing or in combat, technically, but you can do it when you're trying to get things, speed things up that are just on the way, which I didn't know, and I've wasted a lot of time in surface battles specifically not knowing that. So here we are. We have our Avengers all in Vic formation. I found just through my experience that this is the best one to strike with, and I put them all in one formation, attacking just the number 1. And the Dauntless were actually attacking the second heavy cruiser in the column. And my hope was that if we had any misses on the first cruiser, that those torpedoes would pass through and hit the second cruiser. So there was a good chance of us. This basically felt like it gave me the best chance of sinking both of these cruisers in one strike. And I apologize for the, kind of jumping around with the camera and whatnot. There's a lot going on, and I was trying to keep track of what was going on there. But you can see the bombs from the Dauntless just landing hard in the background. These torpedoes start hitting really hard. What is it, 4? I think we end up getting 4 hits. That's right. So we only end up getting 3 hits on this guy, and unfortunately we don't get any more hits. The second cruiser is able to thread the needle between the torpedoes and end up getting away from them just fine. Yeah, but I felt like we had a really good chance of both these ships sinking. The first one that got hit, that was dead in the water, I thought for sure this one's gonna sink, right? Not so much. No, it didn't sink, unfortunately. I mean, I'm absolutely baffled. They were in terrible shape. They had fires everywhere, and somehow they were able to get this all under control. And they didn't sink. I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea how they got that under control, but I am impressed. That was definitely enough to get them to turn around and start running away, and we had B-17s on the way, so I was hoping that they would put them down for the count. B-17's got good hit, 2 bomb hits on one, the one that was moving a bit faster. The one that was dead in the water, surprisingly enough. Oh, I forgot, yes, there was also a dud hit on number 2. On number 1, I was hoping that this light cruiser would get right in the way of these bombs too, and they might both get damaged. Somehow, the only thing that hit number 1 was a dud bomb, so unfortunately they were both just going to walk this one off fairly easily. Yep, unfortunately no sunk yet, but they're very damaged. Yeah, and that's actually ended where we're going to end the episode, guys. I know it's shorter. This was meant to be a longer episode, actually. But I think we're going to end it right here. So, And I might record multiple episodes today. So if I don't see your comments in the next episode, it's because I recorded it before I had the chance to read them. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the chance to do that today or not, but hey, if you liked it, go ahead and hit the crap out of that like button for me. It's the best way to help the channel, and it's totally free. If you want to subscribe, that's the best way to be notified when new episodes come out, especially if you hit that bell icon after subscribing. Feel free to participate. It's not required by any means, but it is absolutely encouraged. And I am so grateful for you all. I love the community that we have going. I'm so happy that you guys are here, and I hope we can keep it up. I hope we can get more and more people to come and join this awesome community that we've got going on. I appreciate you guys so much. And you know what we always say, y'all? Until the next time, peace.
Duck Fart TV.